Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a depths deck, but it's not my beloved turbo depths. No, we're playing a slow depths build. So this is an accompanying piece to go with the article that probably I've published on my Patreon before you see this video, but it's basically looking into different avenues that you can play a slow green-black depths build, because I've had a few people asking about it and I wanted to explore it myself. So our deck is a depths deck. We have 4 dark depths, 4 Vampire Hexmage and 2 Thespian stage. Combination of dark depths with either the stages or the Hexmages will make it a 20/20 indestructible flyer that we can bash our opponent with and win the game with. That's our primary win condition here. But unlike turbo depths, we have other win conditions. So Elvish Reclaimer can just be a creature that beats down a 1 mana 3/4, as well as just getting us various tools we have that we'll discuss in a minute. We have, of course, Orcish Bowmasters, just an incredibly powerhouse card in the format now. I think it's the 5th most played card or the 6th most played card in Legacy right now. So pretty good. And it's going to shut off blue decks quite nicely in some fashion. It's going to stop all their cantrips and stuff like that. Then we have Grist the Hunger Tide, a 3-of. This card is so good at controlling boards. It gives you creatures to beat down with. Obviously 1/1's not the most impressive, but they keep coming. And they also give you the ability to blow up creatures and planeswalkers. So if you're ahead on board and you play a Grist, it's so hard for an opponent to come back from that. So that's why we're running this. So we've got these other little win conditions in here too, as well as a ability to replay our combo, which is what Turbo Depths doesn't have. You have to assemble the whole thing again. Whereas this deck has a life from Loam. So if we go for our combo and it fails, we can just rebuy our Dark Depths in our Thespian stage and then carry on. We also have another cute little bit of tech in here. Because we've got the Grist and the Loam, so we're going to be milling our own library a little bit. We've got one of Raven's Crime. So this, in conjunction with Life from Loam, just shreds your opponent's hand over the course of a turn or two. And then you can happily go off with your combo in peace. So let's have a look at what else we're doing in this deck. We've got a little bit of removal in some trophies to go alongside our Grist, as well as some Thoughtseize for a little bit of hand disruption. And we have a few crop rotations here to try and help our Elvish Reclaimer find our combo pieces. But then a lot of our deck is tied up in mana. So you have 3 Mox Diamonds because we're a high land count, and Life from Loam enables us to play Mox Diamond quite easily and mitigates the downside of it completely. So pretty nice. We've got the combo lands we spoke about. We've got a Ghost Quarter, a Sejiri Steppe, and a full pack of 4 Wastelands. So we are aiming to Wasteland lock people with Life from Loam. Our deck is much more of a grindier deck with a kill in it than it is a combo deck, if that makes sense, right? We're aiming to sort of not be quite as grindy as land, but have the ability to make a 20/20 very quickly, because we have the classic turn 1, Urborg Thoughtseize, turn 2, Dark Depths Hexmage, make a 20/20, and away we go. We also have things like Boseiju and Bojuka Bog and Karakas, and even Nurturing Peatland as tools that we can use multiple times if necessary with our Life from Loam if things are getting wastelanded or whatever. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. We do have Fetch Land Basics Mana Base with a couple of jewels. We also have 4 Urborg because we're going for the Hexmage kill, but we don't have a Yawgmoth in here, which may come back to bite us, but the Mox Diamonds are going to hopefully give us quite a big chunk of green mana to work with. So I haven't tested this list yet. This was sort of an experiment based on some theory crafting. I don't think this deck is remotely optimum, but it should be interesting to test out some of the things that I discussed in the article, which you can find on my Patreon, which is linked in the description. So if you are interested in this deck and depth stuff in general, check it out. I have a massive primer on Green-Black Turbo Depths that gets updated monthly, so it's well worth subscribing to if that's your sort of jam. Quick look at the sideboard here. We've got Graveyard Hate and Endurance, which is also another way that we can beat down when we need to bring in additional threats. That's why we've gone for this over something like Leyline or whatever, because having additional threats in some matchups is going to be really good. We've got a couple of Abrupt Decays to go with our Assassin's Trophy to blow up things like Blood Moon and Opposition Agent. Obviously, we do have Grist, which can kind of help if we can get this out. And our mana is even better here because we've got these Mox Diamonds, which can produce mana from the Grist, for the Grist quite easily. We have a Tower of the Magistrate. If we're getting into grindy games, you want to mess with our opponent's equipment, if they got a Stoneforge package, as well as being able to punch through 8-cast decks. Speaking of 8-cast decks, we've also got 2 Null Rods and a Collector Ouphe here. So we've got a lot of ways of shutting down artifacts. These are also very useful in some of the combo matchups. And speaking of combo matchups, here's 3 more Duresses to help with those matchups. So things like Storm being a prime example, but also Doomsday. Then we just have a couple of Plague Engineers if we just want to try and smash down our opponent's creatures a little bit more. this is something we can bring in. So we got different angles of removal, graveyard haze. We got all the tools that you could want, really. Nothing too special here. I guess the Tower of the Magistrate is a little bit unusual, but you'd be very surprised to not see some combination of these cards, or at least these sorts of effects and targeted things in the meta. You know, like combo targeting, artifact deck targeting, graveyard targeting, stuff that blows things up. You know, these are all the things you'd expect to find in most Depths shells. So this deck is a bit different from the Naya Depths that you may have seen people playing. I think I've played Abzan Depths on the channel as well, which is much more akin to like the standard green-white Depths deck, where it has the Knight of the Reliquary as a big hitter. We don't have that big hitter, unfortunately, but we do have the ability to make 2020s a lot quicker because of Hexmage, and we've got more Grists. It's kind of like our thing to go over the top with, where we can just grind out so much value with that we can hopefully win the game off the back of it. All right, let's get into the league. So like and subscribe really helps the channel out, and I've already mentioned my Patreon, so no need to plug anything else. Let's play some Legacy. All right, this is our opening hand for game one. We have a Bowmasters that we can cast. We have an Assassin's Trophy we can't cast. We have a Life from the Loam we can't cast. It's kind of going downhill a bit from there, isn't it? I think we probably have to mulligan for a bit better mana here. That does not... We have so many lands in our deck. Where are they? All right, this is one we can keep. So, we don't need 2 Mox Diamonds. We'll get rid of the one with the art I don't like. We do need to keep this Boseiju. Do we need to keep this Boseiju? If our Mox Diamond gets countered. I guess we get rid of the Hexmage here. And then we're just going to be grinding in like with a classic sort of Naya Depthsy type strategy here. Should be quite potent. Right, our opponent's on 7. A Scalding Tarn. So we have a question here. Do we just play out our Life from the Loam and get that up and running? Or do we get our Elvish Reclaimer out? Either way, I think we're playing this Mox Diamond first so that we can play around days. We don't have to play around days with Life from the Loam. That's not really what we're about here. I think we'll bin off this Wasteland. We don't want to get stranded for colours because we can always get this Wasteland back. I was thinking, do we play the Life from the Loam here, or do we play the Elvish Reclaimer into Lightning Bolt? If they do have a Lightning Bolt and we play the Elvish Reclaimer, it's going to feel pretty bad. I think the plan here is to cast Life from the Loam. If they counterspell this, it doesn't really matter, because it's Life from the Loam, we can just get it back whenever. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Yep, Volcanic Island, Brainstorm, they're looking for... This tells me that they might have something like Force of Negation in their deck, because countering the Life from the Loam, not going to be that useful, unless they're really operating on one land, and they just can't afford to be wastelanded on their next turn. All right, let's see. So we've got a suboptimal Brainstorm out of our opponent. You can already see how vastly different this deck plays to the regular Depths deck. Oh, an Ancient Tomb. Okay, so a Show and Tell. All right, we'll get our Reclaimer out. Wish we'd have played the Reclaimer instead. All right, our Reclaimer dies, so we can't go and get the thing we were hoping to get with it. We have to get rid of the Wasteland here, so we have more opportunities for coloured mana, because that's how we're going to get out of this one, I think. If we dredge this, we don't get there, so we have to try and draw an Abrupt Decay. Nope, so this is going to hit us twice. Sorry, not Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy. I think we play out our Bayou. So this is going to hit us for 9 and then 9 again. We might as well Thoughtseize get some more information. Our life total is either going to die in 2 hits or not, really. So Lorien revealed. This is a cool new Cycler. So we don't care about days. Do we care about days? 1, 2, 3, 4. They're pretty close to actually just casting. Interesting. Kind of tempted to take the Lorien revealed here, but maybe it should be the days. The thing we're drawing to, we can play around days anyway. So I think we'll take the Lorien revealed, because that's the thing that's going to let them rebuild if we do recover here, which, you know, is possible. We've got 2 Assassin's Trophies in our deck. We can assassinate this Archon of Cruelty and have a good time. And we know they have a daze. We can play around that. Now, our opponent's going to get 2 cards this turn, one from their draw step, one from the Archon of Cruelty trigger. And that gives us 1 more turn to try and draw this card. So we're giving our opponent information about some of the things in our deck, as well as the things that we can have in our deck. Because if we didn't have anything we could draw here, we wouldn't be drawing, right? We just pack the game up and save our time. All right, so draw a mountain this turn. I think we're going to see one of the sneak attacks. Nope. Oh, they're going to save it for an Otawara. Can we draw an Assassin's Trophy? That's our 1 outer. We got 2 of them in the deck, so a 2 outer. We're not playing someone like Mazavith. Mazavith doesn't work very well here. We still lose the life. We don't have a way of getting this into being a 2020, so we are dead. All right. Sneak and Show. This is a matchup I don't mind as Turbo Depths, but as slower depths, we are definitely weaker to it, which is awkward. So Abrupt Decay to kill the Mages of the Moon, I suspect our opponent's going to have, and Duresses to pick apart their hand. That's about all we really want there. What are we taking out? So the Bowmasters are pretty good against all their things when they're going to be trying to drawing extra cards. Boseiju is useful here. Ghost Quarter can be useful. Sejiri Steppe. Yeah, I don't think we're trimming on any of these. Bojuka Bog is probably the only one that can go here. So take out the Bojuka Bog, and then we got to find 4 more cuts. The Loam could be a little bit slow here, as could the Grist. We'll trim on those. And we do want the faster things here. Actually, I don't really like crop rotation too much here, but it's kind of a necessity sometimes to go and get the Karakas. I think we take out the Grist here. That does leave us a little bit light of win condition, fortunately, but we can make a 20-20. That's a pretty good win condition, and our opponent is in a deck that's really going to be messing with it too much. Okay, Thoughtseize into Bowmasters. Excellent. That's what you want to see. Not a bad start to the game. See what they're working with over there. Atraxa, Brainstorm, Ponder. We'll take the Ponder because they don't want to cast the Brainstorm straight away, so we might be able to get them with the Bow Boys next turn, because they'll probably want to do that when they can also do a fetch land at the same time, or they see the black source and they might think, okay, we need to play around Bowmasters. They might not be expecting Bowmasters from us. Right, we'll play a Thespian stage, and we'll pass, and we will get our Bowmasters going. So now they have the fetch land. We can bait them into it here as well. So we can play a Wasteland, try and Wasteland the Volk. In response, they will cast a Brainstorm. In response, we will cast a Bowmasters. Being able to force action with your Bowmasters in a deck with Wastelands is really gross. Alright, so now we're going to have a pretty sizable threat here. So once our opponent finishes resolving their Brainstorm, we're going to get these Bowmaster triggers on our opponent's face. 1, 2, 3. This is going to grow our army token, so it's actually going to be a genuine threat. And we keep our opponent's mana off as well. Seen this, and Scalding Tarn was what they drew. And we've seen the Brainstorm too. Next time we can follow up with a Thoughtseize. They've got a mountain in hand. How many islands do we think they're playing? Is an important question. If we think they're playing 1 island... Oh, a Tundra. That was unexpected. So we might be looking at something like an Orange Chant as a defensive piece here. Don't see Jeskai sneaking shit very often. Ancient Tomb. Over to us. Not really a great draw there. The old Sejiri Steppe. What are we looking at here? A Surgical Extraction on Wasteland. Sure. We have 2 other ways of blowing up lands in our hand. But I'm not really about that here. We're just going to try and beat them down and just give them the old hand disruption. So our opponent could be playing Spell Pierce, so we should play out a land first. What land are we playing? I think we play out the Ghost Quarter here. And let's Thoughtseize our opponent. Traxa, Emrakul, Force of Will. So we can't take them off both their things unless we do it over the course of 2 turns, which might be okay. I think we take the Atraxa to play around Show and Tell, and also shuts off their Force of Will. Leaves them with 4 cards in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go to attacks. And then next turn we can take them off of the Emrakul, and they're not going to have anything to put in. So there's a mountain we knew about. They have an Otawara. They can bounce our Bow Boys or our army. Presumably the army, because that's half their life total in one go. But they will have to pay with their Ancient Tomb to do so. Okay, let's go for a Thoughtseize here. Lorien Revealed. So tap this for 2. We take 1. They're kind of not going to cast this with Bow Boys in play. I think we take the Emrakul here. Just keep them a long way off. They can shuffle all these cards into their library. The Sejiri Steppe won't do anything for us right now. Let's go attacks. We might use the Sejiri Steppe later on to force through some damage if they manage to find a blocker. But if they Otawara here, they're taking 2 from the Ancient Tomb. Yep. Okay, so now we get to put them down to 5. And I think we leave the Sejiri Steppe in hand. And we'll leave this Boseiju. What we can do is we can Ghost Quarter our own land to go and find a green source if we need to blow something up. We could take out our opponent's only blue source, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have an island in their deck. Now, if they play the island, interesting. Okay. I still don't think we want to Ghost Quarter ourselves here. They can cast Lorien Revealed, but they will lose 3 life to do so. Let me go to attacks. So I think we're just holding up the Thespian stage activation or the Boseiju. Right, they're just island cycling this. So what the Boseiju can do is if they put in a Omniscience, I can put in the Sejiri Steppe. So it puts a trigger on the stack, which then gives us the opportunity to then Ghost Quarter and Boseiju away their Omniscience before they get to cast stuff. Not that they're necessarily going to have much in hand, but if they were to like brainstorm into it, Magus of the Moon. How much do we care about that? This will copy our swamp, give us black. The other option there is to Ghost Quarter for green, but we have 2 black spells in our hand right now. Okay, obviously we immediately draw a green one, but sure. We'll have this Vampire Hexmage. I guess we'll play out a Sejiri Steppe as a mountain, since it's not going to be anything else now. We have a first striker. They're on 4 life, so we're going to get rid of this, make us relatively sharpish. They can't hard cast the Force of Will either. Did they find a sneak attack here? They did find a sneak attack. Okay, so now we're not having our green mana. It's giving us a slight bit of punishment. It doesn't help us right now. Go attacks. Attack for 2 here. I think they take it and go to 2. Then we deploy the second Hexmage. So, and I think we might as well play out a Bayou here. Actually, that's not true. We want to hold it for a Mox Diamond. I think that makes a lot more sense. Okay, so we've got lethal damage coming in next turn. Can they find a big monster? Well, if we'd have put the Bayou in, that gives us more things to sacrifice if they have an Emrakul. Alright, we navigate it anyway. Maybe we should have played the Bayou there just to fade their Emrakul draw, but we're going to be dead to the Emrakul draw actually, so that's irrelevant. What am I talking about? 3, 6, yeah, no, we're fine not to play that. Okay, game 3, do you want to do anything differently? Do I fancy any sort of Grist shenanigans here? I don't think so. We correctly identified they're bringing in the Makes of the Moon. I think we do need to keep in all our hand disruption here. Do quite like Grist as a thing that we can do, but I don't know where we fit it in. Like, crop rotation is the thing that we could have instead, but crop rotation finds Karakas, which might be the only thing that keeps us alive sometimes. So I think we just have to resubmit. Casting crop rotation into the old Sneak and Show deck with all its blue mana and spells, not ideal. But crop rotation is going to stop us losing more games than other things will. Okay. Raven's Crime into Orcish Bowmasters into Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, it's not great, but it's something. We could also possibly just Raven's Crime into double Raven's Crime on the next turn. We'll see. I do love Raven's Crime. It's a card I'm very fond of. Probably think it's better than it is. Or Karakas, that's an excellent draw. Can leave this in our hand as a surprise for our opponent. Let's retrace. We already have a spare Urborg that we can fire off later into a Raven's Crime. Okay, discard your worst card. Not as high impact as something like a Thoughtseize, but there we are. Okay, so they got rid of the Surgical Extraction. I'm surprised they even have that, to be honest. I don't think they need to really care about our Wastelands like they did in the second game. Okay, feels like we're about to get show and telled on here. So we put in the Bowmasters in case they have Grizzlebrand. And then we Karakas next turn. Is it an Arcana Cruelty? It's a Fury. Not ideal. So our opponent gets to do their stuff first. Yeah, this is going to actually get us pretty nicely here, to be honest. We do get a 1-1, which can soak up 6 damage, which is a thing that's going to have to do, unfortunately. Okay, our mana not really working well for us today. Yeah, this Fury is pretty good. I do like the Fury sideboard plan that these decks have access to. So, what are we looking at here? We can play Karakas into, what? Hexmage, threaten the combo. Or Bowmasters, doesn't really do anything, just gives us more chump blocks. I think I'd rather have a 1-1 from Bowmasters than pump this Orc Army token, which kind of makes me want to play the Karakas into Hexmage here, so we can at least threaten the combo, and our opponent has to think twice about casting a Show and Tell if they can't beat a 2020 Indestructible. Alright, see, we got the Force of Will out of it, that's not too shabby. So next turn we can remove our opponent's last card, and we're just trying to find a way of dealing with this Fury. We can certainly block it a little bit, which isn't the end of the world. Okay, an Ancient Tomb. I think I will block this. We'll save the damage while our creature's there. If they have something like another Fury down the line, it's going to feel pretty bad. A Thoughtseize, we don't need to cast that. What we can do, though, is cast Raven's Crime, target our opponent, and discard this spare Urborg. So this will get the last card out of our opponent's hand, and then we'll play a Thespian stage, holding up Orcish Bowmasters. Struggling with green mana, I did mention that at the top. That's a thing that could happen here. Getting the Lorien revealed is quite a nice one, although we wouldn't mind them casting it if we have an Orcish Bowmasters on the go. Alright, is this just going to come in for 6 this turn? I believe it is. I will just take it. This is not race what our opponent's doing. But what choice do we have? Alright, we need to find a green source. Okay, that's step 1. Do we think our opponent's got a counter spell they can cast on our Reclaimer here? The 2 life is huge here because that turns us into a 2-turn clock. So I think we don't cast the Thoughtseize here. We just jam out this Reclaimer. Then we go to attacks. Because we just need to attack for 1 here because next turn we can go and get Dark Depths. So just keeping our life total intact is going to be helpful here. I think we will save the life here now that we have the opportunity to. I would like to have another forest, just in case things go awry for us. Okay, what now? Life from the Loam. That's certainly good if you want to try and grind here. So you can pay 2 mana here to get a land back, play another land, sack this to Reclaimer. Because we can't... We only get the Urborg back. It's not very exciting, to be honest. I think we just hold up the Karakas here. And I don't think I want to be attacking with Bowmasters. I think if something goes wrong, I want to have that guy available to block with. But if we had drawn a land there, we could have done our combo. Our opponent didn't attack. That's interesting to me. So now we have a choice about what we're sacrificing here, which is actually not the easiest. So I think we go for... we obviously keep in the Thespian stage. The Urborg does really help us out here. I think we're going to sacrifice the Karakas. We're going to get ourselves a Dark Depths. It's tapped, so we don't get to make the guy now. But next turn, we've got 2 cards in hand. So this mana, we could cast a Life from the Loam, which could be greedy, into any counterspell. So I think we just make our guy. If that doesn't work, we rebuy the Loam and do it again. That seems acceptable to me. So we're definitely feeling more like a grindier deck in this game. Our opponents should know now if they are dead this turn or not. Let's make a guy. They're braiding our Elvish Reclaimer before it becomes eligible to die. Okay, that's fine. We get to keep this one. What is there out to this with no coloured mana up? They don't have one. Excellent. So we got a win there. It was a bit grindy, but that's kind of what our deck's supposed to do. Raven's Crime did stuff. I'm happy. I do like Raven's Crime. I think it's one of my favourite discard spells. That and Cabal Therapy. Anyway, let's get around to. Despite our deck being mostly mana sources, we do not have any lands in our opening hand again. Our opponents also want a Yori on deck, which we can consider with our mulligans. This does not play Magic. This does also not play Magic. Yuck. This hand does play Magic, so I guess we keep it. So 4 of these cards. So I would like Elvish Reclaimer. I would like a Swamp. I would like a Boseiju. Do I want this Wasteland? We just kind of all in on this. Like, we're not keeping this Mox Diamond. We're not keeping one of these Thoughtseize. It's a case of, do we keep this Wasteland or do we keep this bonus Thoughtseize? This Thoughtseize to have a look at their hand. I'm going to keep the Thoughtseize. We might need to Thoughtseize first so that we feel a bit safer playing our Reclaimer. That way we can play it around days as well. But we'll see what flavour of Yori on deck we're looking at. Death and Taxes means our Thoughtseize is probably going to get punished as a keep, whereas the Wasteland could be quite useful. However, if they are the more common at the moment, the blue Yorion builds, the Thoughtseize is going to be much more useful because it's going to poke a hole in their counter magic field. Although I've seen all sorts of Yorion decks lately. It's kind of fascinating. Hexmage. That's a plan, isn't it? Like I said before, I think we do lead off on the Thoughtseize here. If they have a Brainstorm, we may force them into a bad Brainstorm. Fail the Mirrorbreaker, Force of Will, Life from the Loam. Life from the Loam, Wasteland. Not a big lover of that as a thing that our opponent can do. A lot of these cards are very bad news for us. So I'm going to try and take the Force of Will so we can maybe resolve our Elvish Reclaimer. We can use a Bojuka Bog to get rid of their Life from the Loam when the time comes. But there's the Wasteland we knew about. Alright, and now they're going to cast Life from the Loam off their tropical island. Just get that going in there. Sure. Going to be a tough one to win this. Orcish Bowmasters. Is that better than... Looking at what they've got at the moment, I honestly don't think it is. I think we have to play the Reclaimer out right now. Yorion isn't in their hands. They're not guaranteed to have a blue card for Force of Will. Okay, so we've got the Reclaimer in. I think our opponent is going to dredge Life from the Loam because it looks like they're desperate for their other colours. We don't know how many other colours that might be. They might be Rug. Might be many colours. Alright, there's white as well. I suspected they were some amount of hot vantage. That's what we call it. Right, so we're losing our land. So we mull to 4 and we've got Wastelanded. Not ideal. We're now also going to get Wasteland locked, I see. Yep. Now, Elvish Reclaimer is okay at playing around Wasteland. So we could go and get Bojuka Bog right now, get rid of this Life from the Loam. Or we could be in this weird stalemate where we're trying to... This is our green source. Our opponent's definitely going to go for it. I think we have to say no to proposition Life from the Loam here. I think we do have to get rid of the Bayou because we know they've got a Wasteland in hand. So we're not going to keep that anyway. So we may as well keep a basic because it means they've probably got more. Right. We can't be Wasteland locked. They still have a Wasteland in hand though. They're going to have got 2 uses out of, which is probably more than our hand can cope with. But we have options. So we're just going to go into Fable this turn. Alright, that's a slight reprieve. And we have the Bowmasters for next turn. Are we supposed to ping them off now? Whilst they don't have mana up? I think we probably are supposed to do it now when they don't have mana up. Because they can choose how many things they put with Fable. The only reason we want to do it in their turn is so that we can put one on the Shaman token and maybe kill it. But they just won't attack with it. So we just stop them attacking with it. And I think it's better just to make sure we get it in when they don't have any sort of counter magic that they can cast or brainstorm in response. We at least strand the brainstorms in their hand. So we've cut off the usefulness of that Fable. Don't mind that. They can attack here. Okay, they've got the 4th land for the ring anyway, which is going to be a tough one to beat. Oh, they got Minsk and Boo. Okay. So we can go and get Karakas, but we know they have a Wasteland in hand. If we'd have saved the Bowmasters, things might have been a little bit different here. I think we just have to let this hit us here. I think it's worth trading either our creatures for. We do have a Hexmage, so it's not the end of the world. Let's play Hexmage. This will kill Minsk and Boo by removing all the capture sites. Force of Will pitching a Brainstorm that wasn't doing anything in their hand anyway. Okay. I don't think we can win this one. I don't think it's worth us playing this game any longer. Because we're just going to grind our clock off. And we might end up in some quite grindy games. And I don't really want to be about that. So, we've seen the One Ring, which kind of makes me want these Null Rods and Collector Ouphe. We've seen Minsk and Boo, which kind of makes me want these Plague Engineers. We've seen a bunch of stuff that maybe we want to Duress as well. And Endurance against our Life from the Loam also look good. That puts us in an awkward position, right? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff here. And Mox Diamond is kind of important for our colours. More so than I was hoping, to be honest. Hexmage does kill Minsk and Boo, but I don't think I mind shaving some of these. Maybe we don't need the Duresses here. We just need to play to the board and play loads of threats. Life from the Loam is going to be very good in this matchup if we can get it to do stuff. Crop rotation, a little bit awkward into the blue mana. Boseiju can be land destruction. Karakas is very good against Minsk and Boo. Bojuka Bog good against their Life from the Loam. Sejiri Steppe can protect us from a decent chunk of their things, but a cut's got to be made somewhere. So maybe it is the Nurturing Peatland. Are we relying on our trophies and our Karakas to deal with the Minsk and Boo? Are we... I don't think we can get rid of these Thoughtseizes. I think we have to keep those in. Very tough to cut here. Maybe trim one of our Mox Diamonds and the Hexmages. Just try and play a more suppressive game where we just sort of keep playing threats. Like, ideally what we want to do is just Life from the Loam and lock our opponent because they're a 4-colour deck. We should be able to put them in the ground. What does our hand do here? Not cast any green spells, which is a recurring theme with our deck that I'm not enjoying. Okay, I like this hand. Keep this. We have Karakas. That's going to beat Uro and Minsk and Boo. I don't think the Ghost Quarter is one we need, although we can just Ghost Quarter our opponent to Oblivion. But I think Wasteland's going to do the same job just as easily. I think we say done here. We do have an awkward situation of having to choose between Bayou, Swamp or Forest on our first turn. If we choose the Swamp, then how are we going to Life from the Loam? I think we do just have to play to the best things. Like, our opponent is a 4-colour deck. They don't have many Wastelands in their deck. Right, they don't have one there. So, which of these is most annoying to me right now? I think that's probably the Endurance. Yeah, we'll take the Endurance out. And then we're just going to try and Wasteland lock our opponent over the course of a few turns. Okay. A Life from the Loam. Alright, let's play Wasteland. Let's cast Life from the Loam on his Verdant Catacombs. So our opponent's other land is a non-basic. So it's going to put them in an awkward spot. There's a tropical island. Will I dredge this now? Yes, I think I will. We'll play this out. We will Wasteland our opponent. We'll go and get ourselves a basic forest. Oh no, that one. We've milled our basic forest. Okay, that's where it is. Sure. Cast Life from the Loam. I would like this Wasteland, Forest, and I'd like this Dark Depths, please, for later. Green and 1. Has our opponent drawn a Force and a blue card? If it's Force of Negation or Force of Will, it doesn't really matter because we have the other Loam. But our opponent doesn't know that, so we might get a cheeky 2 for 1 here. The next turn we still get to Wasteland our opponent anyway. That will make them sad. Do they think they can beat the Wasteland lock here? Maybe that's what they're calculating. At some point we will also find the Raven's Crime, so we can just grind their whole hand away as well. Life from the Loam is pretty good. Alright, our opponent's got a Tundra. And a Soul Guide Lantern. Alright. Exiling that life from Loam. Understood. How do we feel about how this game has gone now? What is our option here? Okay, we're still Wastelanding. We cast life from Loam. They use their Soul Guide Lantern. We cast Elvish Reclaimer. We might force the Prismatic Ending to do something. Our creature is a 3/4. Alright. So they're going to get Tundra here. Doesn't really cast a lot of the spells in their hand. Alright. Oh, they got Plow. Oh, they're drawing a card. Okay. Even better. They don't know we've got this other life from the Loam. Basic Forest. That's cheating. Okay, here's the Prismatic Ending. Sure. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. We know half of them. Our opponent might concede to save themselves time soon. But we'll see. I guess the onus is on us, actually, because we're the one who are behind on the clock. But we can show them a win condition quite quickly. Okay, we don't care about those. We're just going to play basic land. Going to play Grist. If this resolves, then we have a really powerful threat that we can win the game with. That is difficult to deal with. Alright, yeah, so we got the game there. So, we Wasteland locked somebody. If you know me, you know I love a good Wasteland lock. I'm quite happy with how we sideboarded there. I am kind of thinking maybe we've gone a bit too heavy on the one ring protection. So maybe we'll trim a Null Rod. And... why is this Nurturing Peatland not in our deck? I must have accidentally clicked that one out instead of the one I wanted to click out. Interesting. Okay, bit of a fumble, but I guess that's the card we're having back in. Sure. I want to be able to shut down the one ring, but we don't want to like keep drawing these cards. You know, I think having 2 of them in our 60 is probably enough. This is the sort of hand we want, right? We want to Wasteland lock our opponent. It's finally nice being a deck that can punish these 4-color greedy mana-based decks. Right, they've gone to 6 cards. So Wasteland looking slightly better. Oh, Mystic Sanctuary tapped. That's a sad sight to see. We might not even need to life them alone back these lands. We might just be able to Wasteland them. Alright, let's see what they go for here. Play our basic Forest, or we can Raven's Crime. I think we're just going to... yeah, might as well do a little Raven's Crime. Get some information with what our opponent's working with over there. Do that for basic. An Uro, okay. That's something they want in their graveyard. So, but they didn't have any lands, so... okay, so we will play our basic Forest. We'll play our Mox Diamond. We'll pitch this Boseiju. We'll cast Life from the Loam. Alright, we're getting a Force of Will. Pitching Brainstorm. Sure. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand. Do you want to take another one out? Do we think our opponent's about to smash our graveyard? That's the question. Unsure. Which one of these we pitch? Probably the Dark Depths. Alright, an Abundant Growth. Sure. That's a pretty high priority card for our opponent here. Because that would give them the ability to actually, you know, draw into more lands. And make their land cast all their colours. So I have to imagine they have another Abundant Growth in their hand. So we do get to just absolutely rinse our opponent's hand with Raven's Crime. Yeah, Raven's Crime, Life from Loam, Wasteland, these things are good. Our opponent kept a hand that I don't think they should have kept. They clearly were playing Mystic Sanctuary into Brainstorm, but I think when you just got Wasteland locked in the previous game, you need to be playing a hand that actually has a couple of lands in. That's my take on it. Like, if this was an untapped land that could cast a Brainstorm, I think that's reasonable. But yeah, so we're 2-0. Let's get to round 3. On the play for round 3, if we find another land, this hand is okay. But if we don't get to play Magic. Now, we have 27 lands in our deck. Do we keep this? It's good. You know, it's got a lot of nice spells in it, but any single land. How bad is it if we miss on the first turn? Kind of bad, but not the worst. Go on then. We got so many lands in our deck. I'm not happy about this keep. But we at least have a fetch land to start on, so we have access to basics. We also can't be wastelanded off of our land straight away. If we have to get basic, it's going to be a basic forest. Because I want to cast this Life from the Loam at some point, and then all of our troubles are over. Once upon a time. Let's see what our opponent's doing over there. They're a 60-card deck. So not a Yorion build. A Plateau. Okay, so our opponent's probably on the initiative build that just runs once upon a time to have really good turn, like 1 and 2s. So Orcish Bowmasters is not going to be at its strongest in this matchup. Come on, deck. Where's the land? It is a land. Okay. I'm not expecting counter spells out of the Plateau Mountain deck. Let's crack this. We will get our basic forest here. Because Blood Moon is a thing that could happen here. Let's get these 2 lands going. All right, opponent. Oh, wait. Oh, I was supposed to play a land that time, wasn't I? Awkward. We just stunted our own development there in quite a big way. Chalice of the Void for 0. Okay. We've already played a 1 Mox Diamond. We don't really want to play another one. They're not playing their plateau out into our Wasteland. Yes, I would dredge this. Orcish Bowmasters. Not very exciting. What are we doing here? I think we're playing out this Verdant Catacombs. We're going to get a swamp. And then we have choices here. We can Raven's Crime our opponent twice. Or we can play a threat to the board, like a Bowmasters. I think we're on the Bowmasters line. Just to get something on board. That way, if the initiative does become a part of the game, we can Assassin's Trophy and contest it. If we had played that land last turn, we could have Raven's Crime our opponents twice and then Life from Loamed. Missing that land drop is annoying. Opponent really doesn't want to play this plateau out. Let's have some bow boys. Opponents on cleanup. A Solitude. Interesting they didn't keep that as a thing to do for our Bowmasters, but they might have another one. Oh, they're just scooping it up. They do not want to play against the Wasteland lock. Alright, happy about that. So, what do I think our opponent's deck is? I think they are playing Initiative. So I would like Plague Engineers. These are creatures that can beat Initiative creatures in combat. That's all they have to be, really. I think they're probably also going to be playing Blood Moon, so I want these Abrupt Decays. Geist can spam the board as well as killing stuff, so I think that's really important. I don't really like Thoughtseize in this matchup. Not on the draw anyway. We can rejigger things later, but on the draw, they just get buried under Chalice quite often. But maybe we can keep some depending on what we're removing. Karakas is going to have text in this matchup, so is Sejiri Steppe. Bojuka Bog isn't, so we can keep a Thoughtseize in here. Or we can have an Endurance just as a creature that blocks things like Archon really well. Although I'm kind of worrying about the green pips on this. Do we need the full 4 Life from Loam in this matchup? Or no, I think we do want to be able to Life from Loam here. Yeah, okay, we're going to run it like this. Add in a little bit more removal and some creatures that can tussle in combat a bit. Now we might be able to name like the 3/1 flyer whose name I've forgotten, the Paolo card that takes a card out of your hand and exiles it and makes it cost 2 more. Elite Spellbinder, that's the one. So it can kill that and Thalia if we put on human, which I imagine are possibilities in our opponent deck, although most people are going to be running Anointed Peacekeeper instead of Elite Spellbinder. Our hand has no green mana. Can we keep a hand with no green mana? I don't think so. What did I just say, deck? Why am I tempted to keep this? Thoughtseize does stuff. Vampire Hexmage can do stuff. Opponent's mulligan to 5. I'm going to keep this hand. Turn 1 Thoughtseize might be a massive extension of life of this game for us. I don't. This hand is. It's awkward, but we've got what 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 green sources. There's probably more that I've forgotten about. Oh, 12 because of the Boseiju as well. Once upon a time. Let's see what our opponent's up to here. Magus of the Moon. Yep. That's why I wanted to keep a basic land. Chalice for 0. Okay, that shuts off 3 of our green sources. There's a basic mountain. And it's over to us. Right, let's Thoughtseize away the one thing our opponent has going on. Probably should play the Urborg out there, but... Seasoned Engineer and Magus of the Moon. I guess we take the Magus, because it's going to be difficult for us to win with the way our hand's set up here. And they're going to need a soul land if they want to get Karakas going. So if they want to get the Seasoned Engineer going, and we do have Wastelands in our deck, which would be very tasty here. Alright, let's just say no to Karakas. If we find a green source, this game is over. If we don't, it gets interesting. Alright, opponent didn't find another land. We're just Wasteland locking people today. I am the bad guy. Right, we can play a creature. We've got a win condition. So if our opponent doesn't find any more lands, we're all good. Would love a green source though. Another Wasteland. Okay, that's nearly as good as a green source, isn't it? Put out stage. Go attacks. I don't think our opponent's going to be running any green sources in their deck. To cast it once upon a time, they're just going to use like Moxes and stuff. But maybe they have one. This is going to become a swamp now. We found a green source. We'll get this. We will cast Life from Loam. We'll go to attacks. So we have 2 Wastelands in hand and a Grist, so we can just start gristing our way out of this game. I think 1 or 2 activations of Grist and we're probably in an unassailable position for what our opponent's doing there. Alright, we are 3-0 now because we just Wasteland lock people for 3 games in a row. This is the Magic I like to play when I'm not turbo depthing people. I don't like the standard Landers deck that much, but there is just something about a black-green deck that whittles away all your resources with Life from Loam and Raven's Crime I do really enjoy. I played a green-black Pox deck ages ago with Worm Harvest in, and this is kind of making me sort of relive that sweet time. I think I got 4-1 with that deck. It was pretty good. Anyway, 3-0. Let's go to round 4. Right, we've got a turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer, which can kind of fix everything else later on. So we'll keep this. We have a Life from Loam, so we can dredge into black mana if that's a thing we need as well. I think it's about time we got stepped on by a combo deck, though. A Ponder. Sure. Another Reclaimer. It's pretty good. It's one of the best cards we got. Let's jam it. Right, opponent's turn. Right, Misty Rainforest, cracking it. What are we looking at here? Underground Sea. So we could be Doomsday. We could just be like the Bug Scammy type deck. A Fatal Push on our guy. Sure. We've got another one to reload with. And a Ponder to follow up. A lot of these decks now have a whole bunch of basics in because of the Island Cycler and Swamp Striker from Lord of the Rings, which means you can't Wasteland lock them quite as effectively as you used to be able to. Like Death Shadow used to like not run any basics, and some of the Scam decks were similar. But an ever-changing world. Vampire Hexmage. Does that change what we're doing here? I don't think so. I think I'll play out a Karakas here. We can represent things like Swords to Plowshares, maybe trick our opponent a little bit. And Boseiju is more useful in our hand because the activate ability of it is from our hand, whereas the activate ability of Karakas is in play. So I think it's just better to get it down. I don't believe we're going to have any targets, but they could have green and have Uros in their deck, but I doubt it. Feels like we're getting pushed again. Can't do anything about that? Okay. So now we are looking to be on the Life from Loam plan because we don't have any black mana. If we draw a black land, we can play Grist, but that will be into a day, so maybe we don't want to do that. I don't want this to get dazed. I don't really care if it gets dazed, actually, do I? Think about it. Let's just Life from Loam and get that going. I think we want to keep making land drops for later things when we're playing around days. It's annoying that we're playing the Boseiju, but I don't realistically think our opponent's going to have many targets for outside of their lands, which we're better to hit with Wastelands anyway. Bow Boys, sure. We have our own Bow Boys, so if we can find a Swamp or a Black Source of some description, which is a lot easier to come by in our deck because we've got all these Urborgs. But if we can find one of those, we can ping off their Bowmasters, and Bowmasters is actually going to be good against our opponent because they're playing all the sweet blue cards. And we're going to pop our graveyard out so we can keep an eye on things in it. What are we going to get hit by? A Reanimate on our Elvish Reclaimer. Alright, that's not that exciting. That's what our opponent's doing, I don't mind too much. Black Source, please. No Black Source. Well, we have to put this card into our graveyard, so here it goes. Are we playing out Sejiri Steppe to have an untapped mana for next turn? That means we can Life from Loam and then play an Orcish Bowmasters around days. Don't like it, but that's what we're going with. A Wasteland. They can't Wasteland us off of green mana. Let's float the white and pretend we've got something. Our opponent now has a 3-4 Elvish Reclaimer. We are behind in this matchup, but it's still winnable. Our Bowmasters can do some real work, and once we get a Grist online with enough stuff on board, it's going to be difficult for our opponent to... Yeah. Also, Vampire Hexmage can kill Orcish armies because these are 0/0s with counters on. So you just say, nope. That's pretty interesting. A Murktide. That's not going to be very easy to beat, is it? Alright, so we need the Grist to do some work here. Right, we found a green source. Oh, sorry, a black source. So we'll get a Swamp here. Cast Bowmasters. Don't get to play around days. Let's ping out their Bowmasters here. We can also remove all the counters on a Murktide Regent with a Hexmage. So I think our plan is to try and Grist away the Murktide, which means we're not dredging Life from Loam this turn, I don't think. Fatal Push on our Bowmasters. It's pretty annoying. It means we have to chump block on the Reclaimer, otherwise we take 11. But we have the Bowmasters, which gives us a token to sacrifice the Grist to kill the Murktide, and then leaves us with a thing to chump block with. So we're going to take 9 this turn, and then next turn we'll take 1. And that'll put us to 1. Actually, no, we won't take 1 because we can ping off the army, won't. Yeah. So this goes under the bus. We take 9. Quite a lot of damages, as it turns out. A Wasteland. I think that's game. We could draw an Assassin's Trophy. We don't have the other black mana for it, do we? Let's draw a card out of curiosity. A Dark Depths. That doesn't quite get us there because we only have 1 black mana. We can play the Grist. We don't have anything to sacrifice. We play this out, remove the counters, it's still a 3-3 and we die. Yeah, our opponent's got us pretty handily there. Alright, they've just showed us good blue-black spells. Alright, how do I feel about good blue-black spell? Endurance has some text here, right? It's a decent sized body and it really messes with what they're doing. Abrupt Decay is okay here. We don't really care about Bowmasters. So we didn't see any Death Shadows. So I'm not really looking at doing stuff with that. So I think no to those bits. I don't really want the crop rotations in this matchup, I think. I think I'd rather have the Endurances. Let's have a look. We got any lands that can go here? Ghost Quarter is kind of okay. Karakas in a blue-black deck. I don't think this is going to have any targets. Alright, so we have our 4 Endurances. We can bring in Plague Engineers for Orcs, but they become pretty awkward if our opponent is reanimating it against our Orcs. Is this better than having Trophy? No. Is it better than having Grist? No. It's better than having Hexmage? Possibly. Let's try the Engineers. Some of the learning from this league has been quite interesting. I mean, I think our deck is far from optimal, even though we are 3-0 so far. I think our deck is awkward. It certainly feels awkward. I think we need to have a little look at it at the end and do a little breakdown. Alright, we have turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer. Then what? Yeah, we do need another land. We're playing that horrible game of can we draw a land. So we've got a more than 50% chance of drawing the mana source that works. Very cold to Wasteland though. 50% chance. Is that good enough? No, I don't think we can. Alright, this hand does a thing, I guess. We don't have a green source. Then we're going to drop one of these Endurances. We don't have a green source, but we do have a way of winning the game if we draw one more mana source. We could lead out with a Thespian Stage. That makes our clock slightly quicker if we draw an Urborg. But if we lead out with a Swamp, we can't be Wastelanded. So that we can play a 2-drop of some description if we draw one. Like an Orcish Bowmasters. Right, the Cracking and Fetch land. And a Ponder. A Grief. Do I want to stop them being able to reanimate this? Because we can pitch the Endurance down the line. But we can pitch Endurance... actually, we don't get to do that because they stack their triggers the correct way around. So we don't even have that option. So we just let them take one of the cards. Our opponent played correctly by putting the evoke trigger on the bottom to stop things like exactly what we have in our hand from removing it. They can't reanimate it this turn because they've already played their land. They also didn't shuffle off the Ponder and they exiled a Baleful Strix in case you were curious. Okay, so we can play this out, but our opponent will know what we're doing. I think we will play this out. It means we have options to pivot into Endurance next turn. We're kind of safe and waste. Like, we need 2 mana to go with our Thespian Stage Dark Depths anyway. So we may as well have the 2 mana out now. That gives us more options to pivot into things like Endurance or whatever. Obviously, if we draw an Urborg, kind of unfortunate. But feels like our opponent is holding up an Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, so now we can play an Endurance. Is that better than doing our combo? I think so. We're slowing ourselves down a little bit here. But again, I think that's fine. So when we play our Thespian Stage, we can immediately turn it into a forest, so it's protected. Orcish Bowmasters. Sure, we don't care about this. Do they have Sheoldred's Edict in their deck? I suspect they probably do. I'm going to brainstorm now. Shame we didn't have an Orcish Bowboys to go with it, but they know our hand, I think, apart from one Dark Depths, maybe. I think remember when they griefed us. We can check in here. Oh no, they know we have both the Dark Depths. So they know our entire hand. They got a fetch land to go with their brainstorm. I don't know if they're attacking here unless they got a removal spell. Looks like they got a removal spell. They've given us an opportunity to stop them from possibly casting a Murktide as well. Or reanimation things. Say goodbye to your graveyard, since you use graveyard as a resource. They're putting their fetch land back into their deck here, rather than waiting for the trigger to clear first. That's interesting to me. And the Fatal Push. That's obviously a conscious choice they've made. That's not a mistake or anything. Now we have a Bowmasters of our very own. 3 cards in our opponent's hand. Our opponent has a brainstorm, they can use it. Kind of worrying about whether or not we play around Wasteland here. Let's see, a Ponder. Let's put some meat back on the menu. How would you like them apples, opponent? They know our hand, so if they have anything. Right, then we'll ping off the Bowmasters here. And then once we get the Ponder draw, we will ping off the army token. If they find a Bowmasters off of this Ponder, they can then flash it in response to our trigger, so we don't actually get to kill their Orcish army. Be an interesting series of events there. They draw the Bowmasters, because they'll put a counter on their army token so it survives. Yeah, okay, that's exactly the play we laid out. Sure. It's the format. Okay, they're pinging our army token so it doesn't grow. And then they're growing their army token. And then we get another army. And now we just have a combo that can't be Sheoldred's Edicted away. We get to also Thoughtseize our opponent first, see what they're working with. Murderous Cut, Baleful Strix. Okay, we'll take the Baleful Strix because that actually blocks our creature. Play this out. Make this around Wastelands that we know are in our opponent's deck. Sheoldred's Edict does kill our army token and then they Sheoldred's Edict us. That is the the way that this goes wrong for us, or they find another Baleful Strix. But they got one draw to do it. No cantrips available. Let's see how they fare. Okay. This is so they can put cards in their graveyard from Murktide. Oh no, okay, they just didn't have it. I thought they were trying to fill up their graveyard. They're still one shy, so they could suicide in with their Bowmasters, and then we would not block the Bowmasters because we don't want to give them Murktide to block with. Alright. Do you want to do anything differently here? Like I said, we don't really care that much about that Bowmaster. I think we just resubmit. I like where we're at here. When you're a deck that doesn't really mind that much about Bowmasters, it feels pretty great. Okay, so we can Wasteland, Life from the Loam, Grist. These things seem like what I want to do in this game. Our opponent hasn't shown us many basics, so they might only be on the ones. Alright, a Grief here. What are they going to take? The Grist or the Mox Diamond are the two that I'm expecting here. One of those two. Alright, our opponent's gone for the Mox Diamond. They thought about that for quite a while. Are we getting reanimated on the Grief? We are. Okay, so our opponent's saying this is the clock you have to beat. So we can't just turtle up into a Wasteland lock plan here. But what other option do we have is the next question. Orcish Bowmasters. That's pretty good. Do I want to Wasteland our opponent? I don't. I think I just want to get this Bowmasters into play. So we have the option of killing this Grief. Feels like our opponent's got a Bowmasters over there. Dark Depths though. That certainly puts a cat among the pigeons, doesn't it? So next turn, if we go get Bayous here, we can make Dark Depths Marit Lage next turn. With our opponent only at 3 cards. So okay, looks like we're going to get a Bowboy here, and then we can respond with our own Bowboy. We're waiting for them to ping here. Let's get a Bayou. I think we're just getting 2 Bayous here. Not exposed to Wasteland, but we want to be able to do our combo. We have the Life from Loam. Let's ping out their Bowboys here. Alright. We have a token, so we're protected from Shoulder's Edict. So we're not blocking with this army token. We can take 4 this turn, 4 next turn, and we're fine. We just need to get back to our turn without having our hand savaged. Douthie Voidwalker. Sure. 2 cards on our opponent's hand. I'm not blocking with our army token for the purposes of Shoulder's Edict here. Especially since they're not attacking with their 3-2. That seems great to me. Thoughtseize also nice. I think we're going to just cast this Vampire Hexmage here though. And we're going to play this out. And we're going to make this around Wasteland. Okay, so they need to have land, Fatal Push, and Shoulder's Edict here. A Baleful Strix can buy them a turn. Have a second Douthie Voidwalker, they can slowly assemble their own Marit Lage combo with our Dark Depths and our Hexmage, which are both in exile, which is kind of neat. They can't cantrip for any... Well, they can cantrip for stuff. And I think they have to, right? If they have it. But if they have a Brainstorm, we do get to like machine gun down their board pretty effectively. We kill the Douthie Voidwalker and the army token. But then what is their out? It has to be Brainstorm into Baleful Strix. I imagine if they had a Brainstorm, they probably would just cast it now. Let's see what's in our void here. It is just the Hexmage and the Depths. Neither of those will help them right now. So this is the first game really where the first round where the turbo side of the deck that it can do has actually come up really, which is kind of cool. Okay, so they're casting an exile card. This is Vampire Hexmage. If they have Shoulder's Edict here, this works, right? Because they get Vampire Hexmage, remove the counter from our army, and then Shoulder's Edict us. Yeah, this looks like the line. They found it. Yeah, Shoulder's Edict. Here it comes. I feel it in my bones. There it is. So now we're on the Life from the Loam plan, I guess. Maybe we could have taken that one a little bit slower, but the problem is our opponent has a lot of evasive threats. I think the Bowmasters is slightly more effective in play, because our opponent is a blue cantrip deck. Bojuka Bog or Wasteland? There's the question. Then we're going to go Wasteland this turn. I'm going to cast Life from Loam and get back these lands. I don't know if we can afford to take 7 before making our Marit Lage there. Oh, it would be 9, wouldn't it, actually? Yeah, no, I don't think we could afford to do the Thoughtseize first. Maybe we could, but like we forced the Douthie Voidwalker out. If that Voidwalker was still in play, then we take a whole bunch of damage. We do need to find a way to stop ourselves from dying. Does that mean we're not supposed to dredge Life from the Loam this turn? Now we need Grist or Abrupt Decay. Okay, so we're doing a Murderous Cut. Yeah, I think we need to draw a regular card this turn. Try and find like Elvish Reclaimer or Assassin's Trophy. That definitely helps us out here. Let's take this out and we can get rid of the Grief. That's going to buy us some time. It will give our opponent a land though, which I'm not a fan of, but it's better than being dead. So there is that. All right, so we did kill the Grief, but we give our opponent a basic that we need a Ghost Quarter to try and destroy. I think we are on drawing regular cards again. Oh, Brainstorm. So if we can find a Bowmasters, we'll be pretty good because we're going to Bojuka Bog away, so there's no chance of Murktide next turn. So if we can find a Reclaimer or a Bowmasters, if we find a Grist, then I will play that over the will I play that over the Bojuka Bog? I don't think I will. I think I do have to play the Bojuka Bog first, but it means that we're at least safer for next turn. We just need to make sure Murktide doesn't come down because we have no answer for that right now. That's the quickest way we lose the game. But let's not draw the Life from Loam. Okay, so we did draw a Grist. So I'm going to play this, get rid of this. No Murktides for you. I don't think we can Thoughtseize here. Does mean our Grist risks being countered. We do have basics left in our deck. I don't want to crack our fetch land if we don't have to though. Another Ponder. I imagine this is going to shuffle the one card that was on top unless they find a fetch land. So they have two options of the way they can play this game depending on what they're finding. They could go for the try and counter whatever we're doing and just get there with this 1-1. Or they can try and develop mana and just basically say that we're probably going to be able to deal with this Orc army at some point. Okay, they did chose not to shuffle. And then, yeah, so they want to be in a reasonable position for when we do deal with it. We will cancel that. An Urborg. Does this help our opponent? Not especially. I think we have to play out the Grist here. I don't think we can play the Thoughtseize first. All right, we're in with the Grist. This is a good start. This can also find us our combo pieces, like that one. So if we get another turn, we can Life from the Loam back our Dark Depths, potentially. We can certainly get our Wasteland, but we are in a pretty precarious position. It's kind of, can we get rid of all our opponent's resources versus can they get those last few points of damage? That's quite a good game. Grief. They're evoking Grief. That's A-okay with me. I don't want this Thoughtseize in my hand anyway. Doesn't really do much in the graveyard either, but that's two cards from our opponent's hand. What did they just pitch to that? A Plague Engine. So these are all the cards that have gone from our opponents. Quite a lot. If they have an Orcish Bowmasters, then we're in real trouble. Okay. We are dead, right? So they kill our insect token here, and then they bash for 2. It was a good game. Yeah. We were very close there. I still think we were right not to Thoughtseize that turn. They had to have the Shoulder Disease in hand, and the damage that we would take by waiting another turn and Thoughtseizing them would be too much for us to overcome. So sometimes you can make the right decision and not get there. But we are now 3-1, so we got one more round to play to see if we can get the 4-1. Alright, we're on the draw for the final round. We do have a bit of a turbo depsy hand, so I think we'll keep this one. We can combo on turn 3 if we want, because we can go and get Urborg. Grief, you say? Oakley dokely. What flavour of Grief deck is this? They pitched a Fatal Push, so I'm thinking it's something very similar to the deck we just played, which was a pretty close run game, to be honest. They can't stop us from making a turn 4 guy, unless they have Wastelands. So they've gone for the crop rotation. That's interesting. Okay, so we're on the Bug Scam build. All right. So not quite the same deck as last time, but Grief plus Orcish Bowmasters is everywhere. So what are we doing with our turn? Hexmage. Okay. Quite like that. I think we'll play out. It's unlikely we're going to have any sort of weird back to basic shenanigans coming along. But just in case, I'm going to play out the Verdant Catacombs so we can go and get our basic forest if we need to. But ideally, this is going to be a Bayou so that we can cast our Hexmage and Depths at the same time. Just see if that gets there. And then we can follow up with Grist, or we can try and jam Grist. You can see what we think is going to be more useful. If our opponent shows us white mana, then I'm more inclined to use the Grist as a bait spell. Oh, sorry, to use the Hexmage as a bait spell so that we can get our Grist through. But we'll see. A Thoughtseize. Okay, I like that. Let's play this basic Swamp and cast a Thoughtseize. Our opponent's just done a Brainstorm to like make the hand all nice and lovely, which is why I think I guess it depends what they had in their hand, if they were looking for lands and things. So we go here, Life from the Loam. I do not want to play against. I will take this Life from the Loam. What am I talking about? They'll just dredge it. Madness. How much do I care about Bowmasters? I think it's the Brainstorm that goes here, isn't it? So we're still not Wastelandable. So what we can do is if our opponent draws another land, maybe we're supposed to let them keep the Brainstorm so they deploy maybe a different land to Wasteland, because they just leave Wasteland open. That's not going to be great for us. And we can't just have the Hexmage out there when we know they've got Bowmasters on the horizon. Alright, so we have a Thespian stage. That's actually really interesting here. Do I think they're going to Wasteland our Thespian stage? That seemed very unlikely to me. I'm going to go and get a Bayou here. We've got another green source anyway. So we'll float the mana here. Then they're just going to dredge Wasteland, aren't they? Maybe we do get the forest and we just play this one slightly slower. Cast this. Start ticking it up. Now they can Bowmasters, which is obviously a pain here because it's going to take 3 damage. So it's going to go down to 1. But if we can keep our opponent off of doing full Wasteland shenanigans, then maybe we'll be alright. Oh shit, we're going to take 2 on the Grist, sorry. Not. And I imagine we're going to see a Life from Loam here. Our opponent's doing very similar things to us in some respect, except instead of having this combo, they've got just like good solid cards, like Grief and blue cards. Right. Are they going to deploy the Wasteland as a safety valve, or do they want to keep open? Okay, they've given us a window that we can't... well, we can do some stuff with this window they've given us. It's not the most exciting, but we can play this, we can plus this, and then we can turn our Thespian stage into a swamp, so it can't be Wastelanded. And then we can play Hexmage and Depths next turn. And if they Wasteland us, we Hexmage in response, then we untap, and then we have 2 ways of making our 20/20. Meanwhile, Grist is offering a reasonable distraction that can take over the game if they don't try and finish it. They might just be roadblocked here. So there's the Wasteland. They can't hit our Thespian stage right now. Sonuro. Okay, they've tapped out. This is going to put them up to a slightly higher life total, unfortunately, which is very real. But they have a fetch land, so maybe they'll crack that and help us out. But we can make a Marit Lage on our turn. Let's see if they attack here. Excellent. Let's make a token straight away. Cast this Hexmage. We've got another one if they counterspell this. Play this out. Immediately make a 20/20. We have Shoulder's Edict protection. So we're doing okay here. We've got to be careful about our insect tokens and how much we want to let them live or die. They can bring back Uro next turn, which will put them to 25, but we still have a 2-turn clock. And we've got a lot of life total because they spent resources on this Grist and haven't really been pressuring us that much. It's more the Grist that's been pressured. A Brainstorm. Sure. Let's see if they can find the answer. Also, this Grist can potentially threaten to do the final points of damage. Right, they're going to 21. They don't have the ability to hardcast to backside the Uro here. Dress down. Right, so we're going to get Fatal Pushed on our Marit Lage here. It's annoying. Yep. Okay. But we still have the Grist supremacy. We need to deal with his Uro, though. That's the next problem. How are we going to do that? Assassin's Trophy. That kind of helps, but let's mill ourselves first and see if we find anything interesting. We can play Peatland and draw a card. I don't hate this. What mana do we want to keep open? Do you want to keep open Assassin's Trophy mana, or do you want to keep open Hexmage mana? I think Trophy is probably more useful here. They do get to bow one of our things down. Alright, this is good. We've drawn another way of going off here. That's exciting. Are we Thoughtseizing our opponent, or are we holding up this trophy? If we hold up the trophy, we can get rid of the Wasteland, and then the next turn we can just make the Hexmage. Yeah, so I think we just hold up the trophy here. Also, the Bowmasters is every draw that isn't your first draw, so it's not that you get 1 draw in each turn that doesn't get punished. So we might as well do it then because we're looking for things that we might be able to cast right there. And then something like a Elvish Reclaimer, for example, a tasty one. Right, there's a Verdant Catacombs. That's their land for turn. Here comes the Uro. I think we are probably getting rid of the Wasteland instead of the Uro, though. Right, so there's an Uro. We have the tools to beat this. Okay, so they milled the life from the Loam. Interesting. Not attacking with the 2/2 is interesting as well. Let's get rid of this Wasteland. Say no to Wasteland, kid. Let's not. We've gone from being the Wasteland deck to being scared of the Wastelands. It's kind of the interesting duality of this deck. Let's try this Hexmage out. I think we just want the Sejiri Steppe here. Target this. Get protection from black for the turn. This way we can sacrifice the Sejiri Steppe. We don't lose anything if this goes wrong. Okay. Let's see how we do. We're just going to hold these guys back to block. Got protection from Shoulder's Edict, but they can do another dress down line. How many dress downs they realistically have? Not enough. Alright. Bit of a grind, but we got there. Sideboard. Endurances against their Uro Life from the Loam deck. Very much required. Plague Engineer is good against Bow Boys. If that's the thing we care about, it also trades with the Uro and can protect our Grist. Abrupt Decay can be useful against Uro as well as Bow Boys. Similar but different. Karakas, very good here. Ghost Core is probably going to be pretty nice. Bojuka Bog, sure. Boseiju, it's a green source. Don't really like boarding out green sources. How much do I think our discard is going to come into play in this game? Or do we just want to sort of max out on good stuff? So I think we need to get rid of these crop rotations, even though it did kind of win the day for us a bit. I think we want to try and just wasteland our opponent into the dirt where possible and just get rid of the few things that matter. So maybe we're just playing to the board and getting rid of things like Thoughtseizes here. And can we trim a land? They're all so good. We could just trim the Sejiri Steppe. We haven't really been using it to protect our guys very much. That's quite a tool that we're removing from our deck. We don't want to take that Reclaimer out, do we? The Thoughtseize will go. And yeah, I think we will take out the Sejiri Steppe here. We'd rather just like rinse and repeat a few times. So we're just trying to play good stuff. We could go down on Hexmages, but I think we want them here. Our opponent's answers are either two specific cards or... Oh, this hand is nice. We'll keep... It says Bow Boys into Grist. That's a very powerful start. I think we're going to pitch the Dark Depths to the Mox Diamond. If they got Surgical Extraction, fair enough. We still have Grist and stuff. We can win the game. We get a basic off of this. I like that. Let's play this Mox Diamond. Does that mean we are pitching this now? I think it is still the Depths, isn't it? And then we'll pass. We don't want to be the first person to be bowing. Unless our opponent's doing something in response. Doing like a draw or something. Okay, so now we can crack this for a forest. And try the Bow Boys out for size. Do I think this is going to resolve? No. But I think we'll get two cards out of our opponent's hand because they haven't shown us daisies yet. Unless they've got another Brainstorm here and they're just going to try and find an answer. Or they've got a Fatal Push is the other answer here, right? They can just push this and then let the Brainstorm go through. This does mean that their Brainstorm is going to be worse. Oh wow, they're just letting it happen. Why do they fetch first? That's really weird then. So we want to fetch so that they at least get maximum value for the Brainstorm. Alright. Let's have a massive guy. I guess if they just want to Fatal Push our Orcish army, but I think you just hit the Bowmasters in response. And a Ponder. Wowzers, trousers. We're getting all the value here. That's mad. So we've dealt 5 damage and made 6 power off of a 2-drop. That's so unfair. And now we're going to put the screws in here. Can I have a Life from Loam, please? We are very far ahead now. We have a Grist to follow up with. But, okay, we just, yeah. So, we got a 4-1 with the deck, and the one round we lost came down to our opponent having to have the 1 of, possibly a 2 of in their deck, in their hand at that precise moment. And even then, we had some turns afterwards where if we drew the right thing, we could still win the game. So, pretty close. I don't actually think this deck is that good, but we were pretty close to getting a trophy with it. Let's talk about this deck then. So, one thing I would like to say is, quite often it didn't feel like we had enough green sources. That was definitely a problem we faced here. I also think the Hexmage didn't feel amazing. Now, it definitely won us a bunch of games as well. And that's kind of one of the things we're trying to do with the deck, is have the option to go for the combo early on. And if they have the answer, then we can grind with a bunch of different pieces. But maybe if I was looking to change this deck, I'd think of the 4th copy of Hexmage and the 4th copy of Depths are things that I would consider taking out, and then sort of relying more on our Reclaimers and Life from the Loams to find it. Does that mean you could trim a Life from the Loam and add in some Entombs? I don't know. I do like Entomb a lot though, especially when you're playing Raven's Crime. It also allows for Dark Blast as an option, which is very good in the meta right now because it just sweeps up all these Bow Boys. Also, maybe a Yawgmoth should be in our deck. So if I was cutting the 4th Depths, I would probably put a Yawgmoth in, and then if we were cutting 1 Hexmage, 1 Loam for an Entomb and a Dark Blast, that's probably okay. Something along that lines, but I don't think I would tweak this deck massively. But I do think we want the other green source in the deck. We did feel a little bit struggling. The Karakas is an off-color land. It's a bit awkward. Also, the Sejiri Steppe, we weren't really doing Sejiri Steppe stuff. But I've played enough Depths decks over the years to tell you that there's definitely loads of situations where this will come up and be absolutely game-breaking. So whether or not you want to trim there remains to be seen. You could also take a leaf out of some of the Naya Depths decks that run to 61 cards. Because if you've got a big tutor box, the slight increase in deck size that makes your hands slightly different percentage-wise in terms of what you're drawing, you're not going to be the most efficient to finding all your things by a very small amount, is offset by the fact that you've got this one really good tool that you can have, and you're less likely to draw that tool as well if it's something like Sejiri Steppe you don't really want in your hand. So this could be a good shout for a 61 card deck. Also on Magic Online, you sometimes trick people into thinking you're Ouphe and they board horribly, or they mulligan horribly, sorry, and then you get to just get them with like normal-ish stuff. Sideboard-wise today, I didn't really feel like there was anything I was missing. Obviously, the spread of matchups we played were mostly in the... Well, they're all in the fair ballpark, I seem to recall. Which is kind of what we want to do in a bit of a way, where we have all our grind engines. Just kind of want to overload instead of having to find enough stuff to make it that we can get through once. We've got multiple avenues to winning. And as you saw, Wasteland and Life from the Loam at the moment are pretty good, and they won us a lot of games. And I do love Wasteland. So years and years ago when I used to play a slow depths build, that was back when Dark Confident was a thing that we could do, and it wasn't just getting picked off by boys and stuff. Used to run like Mox Diamond, Wasteland, Life from the Loam, and just absolutely grind people out and then eventually win. And obviously I used to play Raven's Crime because I love this card. But in the article that should be up on my Patreon now, I do mention about the problem with Dark Confident right now is there's boys everywhere, and it's not really going to get us there. And you need an engine in your deck. Now, in my article, I went on about different engines you can play. I also sort of did extreme versions of different deck lists, like a heavily black build, a heavily into Green Sun Zenith build, a heavily into Life from the Loam strategy. So more so than this. So we're playing Entombs, we're playing Entombed targets, like the Dark Blast and stuff I mentioned. So in the article, I write about all these different directions you can pull, and this is kind of like the middle road that I found, where we've got the Grists as like an additional engine to go alongside our Loam and our Reclaimers. So we've kind of got these pieces that on their own can kind of win you a game, in more or less. Now obviously Reclaimer's usually going to win you that game via finding you things like Dark Depths and Thespian State, but I think it's certainly an interesting take, what we've got here. It performed much better than I was expecting. I was thinking we would be around the sort of 2-3 to 3-2 because I hadn't tested a single game with this. I hadn't even drawn sample hands. I just theory crafted this whole thing, as I tend to do quite a lot. That's what happens when you play Magic for 20 years. So you get a bit of a feel for it, I suppose. But I didn't think this deck was going to be that good. I thought we might have, you know, a lot of learning from it. But we did get some learning from it, which is true. But the deck overperformed, in my opinion. I did say at the start it's nowhere near optimized, but maybe it's not that far off. Like, the things we're doing are intrinsically powerful. Like Life from the Loam is one hell of a Magic card. All right. I don't really have much else to say about this. Hope you enjoy this one. If you're expecting regular Turbo Depths today, like I normally do, sorry about that, but I hope this one still pleased you and you enjoyed seeing something a bit different, but also kind of similar, and seeing the different directions once you've got the shell of Turbo Depths, so you can maybe sort of stretch it and pull it in. Obviously, Mox Diamonds are very expensive in real life, so not always great for paper, this. Nevertheless, I had quite a good time today, and I think we showcased what this deck can do and why slow depths is a thing you want to possibly look at. And if you are really interested, please do check out the Patreon. It's on the 2020 specialist tier of my Patreon, is where I post all my like Dark Depths related content in terms of articles and primer for my Turbo Depths. And I do go into detail about like why you might want slow depths and why, you know, just the whole reasoning of the deck and why it's different to the other builds and where it sits on the spectrum of Turbo Depths through to incredibly grindy lands. All right. I think I've spoken long enough today. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel out. And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy, by all means share my content to them. And just keep enjoying Legacy because it's a great format. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.